and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Jordan Nathan of Caraway. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Cameron. Super excited to chat.
Yeah, of course. So, I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
So grew up in northern New Jersey in Bergen County, about 45 minutes outside New York City. Funny enough, both my parents are entrepreneurs. My brother actually is today as well, and grew up in a family of business owners. My dad was in kind of the outerwear and fashion world. He has his own kind of buying office independently, and then my mom is a controller. So
Hmm.
watched the two of them growing up, kind of running their own businesses, which was super exciting, and
Yeah.
getting to control their own schedules. And when I was a lot younger, ice hockey was my main passion. So grew up playing ice hockey my whole life. Played in college, and
Hmm.
before I got into business, wanted to be in the NHL and
Yeah.
make it all the way there, but unfortunately was not good enough. Grew up really loving sports and hockey and um, uh,
Love it.
take a lot of those learnings into where I am today.
For sure. Yeah, growing up and kind of through your grade school years, was that main focus and priority, would you say hockey, like full intentionality, or what were some of your like aspirations as well, career-wise? Hockey maybe
Yeah,
even.
hockey was like the center of my life. Everything I did really was devoted to getting better as a player. But I think watching my parents both be entrepreneurs growing up, uh, always had an interest in starting a business. I actually used to go to a summer camp, and my parents used to bring candy during visiting day, and I actually used to like hoard the candy to sell to everyone else when they ran out of their own stash. And so always had kind of that business interests kind of in early days. And even when I got to college or high school, I participated in a lot of business clubs, entrepreneurship clubs.
Hmm.
Had a feeling that one day I would start something, but never knew, what that would look like and what I'd be interested in launching.
Yeah. So getting into your college years, you mentioned you played hockey. I saw you went on to Kobe College. Was that like on scholarship? What made you decide to go there as well? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I went to Colby. It's a small liberal arts school up in Maine, about 1,800 students.
Hmm.
Um, Played college sports there, and loved that it was a liberal arts education. I was interested in learning about a number of different areas. I think a big focus of the education at Colby was around writing, kind of forming an argument. Definitely wrote a big share of thesis papers there around various subjects, and um, ended up creating my own major, which was consumer psychology. So it was kind of a combination of psychology classes, sociology, business, economics, and I think a little bit
Mm.
of math. And was really interested in understanding why consumers made the purchasing decisions that they did,
Yeah.
and maybe what personality factors or environmental factors might influence those decisions.
Mm. Awesome. I saw post college, and you might have been working on it during college as well. You ended up creating your own startup kind of on that shopping experience. If you can kind of explain what led you into this venture and the inspiration behind that.
Yeah, so my sophomore year of college, started kind of getting really interested in business, and I think back in the was it 2011, 2012, there was all these new exciting direct to consumer brands, a lot of new online shopping experiences popping up, a lot of focus on I think mobile at the time,
Mhm.
and as a consumer was continually frustrated with going to shop for an item and having to open up like 30 different tabs in my browser to find the right item. And, I wasn't sure where to save what I liked. And so came up with this idea to create a shopping platform that was built for really direct to consumer brands or up and coming brands in the fashion space to start,
Mm.
where you could kind of shop by discovery if you like, shop by brand, and long term the goal is to kind of be like a Amazon for products that you want versus need.
Yeah.
And so yeah, spent a lot of my last 3 years at college doing research, built wireframes and kind of a rough product, wrote a 100-page thesis on it or business plan, and then out of school spent I think a year and a half right out of school starting the company.
Wow. Incredible. So what did kind of that logistic process look like behind that? Were brands onboarding onto the platform, and then how did like warehousing, shipping, would that they would just handle that on their side? They would just use your platform as kind of like just a database and they would ship? How did that look?
Yeah, so interestingly, that business would have been a lot easier to start today than it was a decade ago.
Yeah.
At the time, a lot of brands were on Shopify, but there was still a big cohort still on Magento or BigCommerce. And
Hmm.
one of the biggest logistical hurdles was how do we actually connect into someone's store and feed an item through their Shopify backend. And so um, we were building a technology around that, which was kind of like a third party connector, and then had some other products that would have been affiliate based to drive you off platform. Um, and so, yeah, it was a really interesting product in that there are a couple other competitors where they were all affiliate based, driving off platform, and that logistical connection was really tough. And
Yeah.
as a business, we just wanted to be the platform that facilitated the sale, and then kind of left logistics to the
Mm.
brand.
Love it. So I saw that then eventually you got into kind of your direct consumer area by starting in 2016 Remy, which prior to Caraway, this is also kind of in that kitchenware space, which you launched. What kind of motivated you to get into that, kind of coming from this tech startup that you started up and then getting into kind of direct consumer products yourself?
Yeah, so uh, my first startup, Wanu, we ended up not making it to market. It was really tough to fundraise in the environment that we were in. I think a lot of the Gilts and Rue La Las and Groupons at that time were struggling, and investors really didn't want to put their capital into marketplaces. And so
Mm.
I joined a company called Mohawk Group, which was the owner of Remy and a number of Amazon-based brands. I was
Mm.
their roughly 10th employee. Started as a brand manager for Remy, and when I first got there, I think they had 3 or 4 products. The brand itself sold kitchenware, home goods. Um, when I first got there, a lot of the products they had weren't selling super well, so I had to teach myself how to source from Asia, do product
Mm.
development. Once we got those products to the US, we had to figure out how to sell them. And then once we were selling them, we had to figure out how to do the logistics. And so it was a really amazing experience kind of building this brand within the Mohawk Group structure. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, it was all Amazon based. And so really
Mm.
got my first learnings in the Amazon platform. Uh, and direct to consumer was a small piece of the business, but really
Mm.
kind of a supportive function to maybe repeat customers and using Amazon more for acquisition.
Yeah, for sure. I saw kind of leading on to this 2018. I know Remy really expanded into other products as well, but 2018 is when Caraway then comes. I'm sure some of your prior experiences, especially with your career journeys thus far, inspired the launch of Caraway. If you can kind of explain the inspiration behind that, especially kind of the non-toxic cookware space.
Yeah, in my time at Vremi, I launched dozens and dozens of products in the kitchen space. So cookware, bakeware, small appliances, gadgets, and
Mm.
I actually spent a lot of time overseas in factories. And one of the things that I noticed about the category was just a lot of bad manufacturing processes, a lot of materials like plastic and Teflon touching your food that's not safe to use. And
Yeah.
I actually had a really scary experience with a Teflon pan where I actually brought a pan home to test that we were looking to launch. I put on my burner. I forgot I left it there for 45 minutes with the
Mm.
flame on. And my apartment actually ended up being filled with fumes.
Wow.
And I actually got Teflon poisoning from overheating the pan. And so
Wow.
kind of went through this experience, and being in the category, it kind of clicked that, why are we cooking off of something that's potentially so toxic and
Mm.
there has to be an alternative. And kind of looked in the market. Ceramic had existed, but no one had really launched a brand that explained why the material exists, why it's good for you. And, with all my experience in the kitchen space, thought I could give it a go and branch out on my own. So launched
Yeah,
Caraway in 2019.
love it. So, from your sourcing experience prior with Remy, where did you look for sourcing? If you can kind of share, like, for non-toxic cookware.
Yeah. So fortunately, the production and product development part was actually one of the easier parts of launching Caraway, just because I had
Mm.
been doing so much of it at Remy.
Yeah.
Um, when launching Caraway, it was really important to find vendors who believed in eco-friendly practices in manufacturing, using premium materials. We're also a very design-driven brand, and so I think a lot of factories are always looking to optimize cost, whereas in
Mm.
Caraway, of course, we want to offer things that are accessible, but also we're not going to cut corners around design details or
Yeah.
materials. And so looked everywhere from Asia, US, Taiwan, Mexico, and we landed with some great factories overseas in Asia. Some of those vendors I'd actually met with my experience with Remy.
Mm.
And so had some prior relationships there, which was really helpful.
Awesome. At launch, what did Caraway look like then? You guys have had amazing exponential growth through the years, but what was that like first line or first offering that you guys launched with?
So we launched November 2019. Our first product was our cookware set. We actually didn't have any singles, and the thesis at the
Mm.
beginning was we just want to sell you one set that gives you everything you need and nothing more. The site was very simple. It was basically a single page that you could check out on.
Mm.
We still had the same kind of core 5 or 6 colors. And we launched during the holidays, which was a great time to launch. And
Yeah.
yeah, the brand really kind of took off. We had a lot of great press at launch. We had, I think, 100 or 200 influencers
Mm.
posting on launch day, which was really successful. And then prior to actually launching, we built a 100,000 plus email list.
Wow.
And so started kind of building up the brand a little bit before launch to help us once we got to market.
Yeah. I'd love to hear kind of that, the acquisition side of things, especially email prior to launch. So how did you guys acquire? Was this mainly like Facebook ads? Were you running giveaways? What did that look like?
Yeah, so we really leaned into giveaways. We partnered with a lot of other D2C brands
Hmm.
and kind of participated in multi-brand giveaways. In a lot of cases, we were hosting them, and through that, we're able to acquire a number of early adopters. And um, I think started this process maybe 6 to 8 months before, and with that list had run a bunch of referral programs. We talked about the brand, the R&D process. We gave
Mm.
sneak peeks of what the product would be, and so by the time we launched, we had built up the hype and had a community of people who kind of followed the journey of what we were
Yeah.
building.
Incredible. With especially at launch, what did you find out was like the main demographic overall, subscribers wise?
Yeah. So very city based, which is not surprising given we were mostly direct to consumer. A lot of our customer, interestingly, were I would say less good at cooking than maybe what we were expecting. I think a lot of the customers coming to Caraway really were buying us for the non-toxic and design, but also they
Yeah.
wanted something that was really easy to clean up and use. And I think as a brand, really struck a chord with folks who didn't want to be a professional chef. They wanted something that was high performance, but um, was safe and non-toxic. So
For sure.
really lean into those categories. And I would say one surprising thing was I think we expected more folks living in apartments or maybe by themselves to be a big core demographic, but
Yeah.
actually a lot of families and folks with more people in their homes were kind of a bigger demographic for us.
So I'm curious, in 2020, when COVID rolls around, then a lot of e-commerce, especially brick and mortar stores, were affected with COVID. How did this affect you guys, especially in the cookware space and selling direct to consumer?
It was definitely a scary moment to start for the business. We had just launched 3 months ago, and
Yeah.
lo and behold, we have a global pandemic, and I think there was a lot of concern around, will consumers be purchasing? Where will they be purchasing? And for Caraway, we're on the lucky side of the coin there, where a lot of consumers were stuck at home. They're spending more time in the kitchen. And what ended up happening was a lot of the growth in the category got accelerated because everyone wanted to
Mm.
uh, cook more at home and not go out, and was a great opportunity for Caraway to make its way into the conversation, and especially when a lot of the sentiment was around COVID and getting sick, having products that were non-toxic,
Yeah.
I think really resonated with consumers. And if we look at kind of the market moving forward, I think one of the benefits to that time with consumers was getting them in the kitchen, learning to cook. And I think we're seeing now, a couple of years later, that a lot of just interest in cooking at home was accelerated, and
Yeah.
we've been able to carry forth with that.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys continue today, but at this time, did you leverage like your digital presence, such as like education or do any like tutorials? I feel like that would be a huge lever to pull at that time, especially. What did that look like for you guys?
Definitely. Where we really leaned early on, and we still do today, is working with a large network of brand ambassadors. So today we
Mm.
work with around 3,000 per year across Instagram and TikTok. And, I think it's one thing hearing from the brand on the product and how to use
Yeah.
it. But having a, group of evangelists who really love the product is where we leaned in. And so during that time, and even today, focused on kind of our core customers and core ambassadors to kind of be the spokespeople for the brand,
Mm.
and share why Caraway is something they love, how it makes their life easier, safer,
Yeah.
etc.
As I'm sure this was both a good part for e-commerce, but also disruption, obviously, for supply chain. Did you guys see any disruptions within orders taking place at this time?
We did. Logistics were a nightmare for about
Yeah.
2 years. So in 2021, funny enough, we pretty much had zero product all year, which for an early
Mm.
startup was a benefit because our cash flow is great, because we were
Yeah.
selling basically on like a 10-week back order at any point during the year, similar to buying a couch.
Okay.
And that was kind of the status quo, so it didn't affect conversion rates too much, I would say. But yeah, we really built this model of kind of selling on a back order or a wait list, which I think helped drive hype and demand.
Mm.
And I don't think we really returned back to normal until mid to late 2022.
Okay.
Really challenging time, especially for our operations team.
Yeah.
Um, and then at that point too, you couldn't get access to stainless steel and aluminum, and costs were going up. And so
Mm.
a lot of decisions there and challenges around, do we change the price? Do we keep it the same? And we ended up
For
keeping
sure.
our pricing without any changes to really, I think honor the price point that we put out to market, but also continue to create a brand that's accessible.
Now, I'm sure this has evolved over time, but you mentioned kind of with the acquisition, you did some education on non-toxic. But in a market where it's ran by a lot of bigger, older legacy brands, and then you guys are coming up as a new player, how do you guys continue to educate consumers? Especially, I feel like a lot of cookware people are uneducated on what they're using. So, what do you find works with the marketing so far you guys are doing?
Yeah, so most of when we survey customers, the biggest reason they purchase Caraway is because of our non-toxic coatings and materials.
Hmm.
We really lead with that front and center of our marketing. I think there are a lot of brands in the space before we launched who sat on retail shelves, and I think one of the big challenge with that is you don't know why the material exists. You don't have the room to talk about it, and so being direct to consumer first.
Yeah.
We've always had an our materials page on our site. Within all of the product pages, we talk about the materials. After you buy a product, we have emails that you receive that explain more about the product that you bought. And then one thing that we do that's a bit different than most other brands in the space is if you were to message our customer service team, we're really transparent. We share all testing reports that we've done on our materials. And yeah, I think as a brand, we want to make sure the information's there if you want to dig in more, but
Yeah,
also don't want to overwhelm a consumer with too much,
for
that
sure.
prevents them from purchasing.
For sure. So you guys launched with this first kind of family of products, this first line. Today, as you guys expand, what does R&D look like for, say, a new line or a new product that you guys want to launch? What does that process look like?
So our average R&D timeline right now takes about 3 years. It's quite long,
Okay.
but we're typically working 5 years out on what we want to launch, and
Hmm.
um, a big piece of it is listening to consumers. So we do a lot of surveying, asking customers what they want, what's missing from their current sets, what are challenges in the kitchen, and
Hmm.
just ask them broadly so we can think about how we can solve those through products.
Yeah.
And then we also do our own research where maybe we're looking at Google Trends or certain keywords and seeing what people are searching for, looking through reviews to see what are features that are missing or that people really like. And as we look across categories, we love opportunities where there's a big space to offer a material that's non-toxic that's maybe not offered there today, or
Yep.
our bakeware, tea kettle, food storage are great examples of products where there was never a premium option in those spaces, and we felt like Caraway could enter and really create a new category within some of those
Mhm.
verticals.
Definitely. So as far as where you guys are selling today, are you 100% e-commerce right now, or did you guys roll it into retail? What does that look like so
Yeah.
far?
So we're majority e-commerce. We launched Amazon last year, which is a big business for us, and then
Awesome.
we are in about 800 retail locations today. So we sell with Target, Crate and Barrel, Container Store, Nordstrom, and then we have a number of marketplace relationships. So whether it's
Mm.
Zola, Costco,
Yeah.
Bloomingdale's, and a handful of others.
Incredible. Looking into kind of the future of Caraway, do you see further retail opportunities for you guys, or is the direct consumer e-commerce space really just the pinpoint right now for the future?
I think when we think about Caraway, we want to be as accessible to consumers as possible. So, I
Yeah.
think we see opportunity in distribution, going deeper with existing channels and partners, adding on new
Yeah.
ones. Um, our goal is really to remove Teflon from shelves, and
Mm.
to do that, we physically need to replace those products. And so I think retail is a really big opportunity. And then, um, uh, yeah, I think with continued product expansion, it also opens up different verticals where maybe certain products live in certain areas and they may not live in other channels that we're
Yeah.
selling on.
Definitely. Well, I'd like to conclude each episode with this. If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret along the way, what would you say that would be?
Great question. I think surround yourself with a great team and advisors. I think, I don't know, for me, I was a single founder, and, it's often a lonely path. And, I think with any company, those first hires are critical, having the right support around you. You're not there on your own. And so I think
Mhm.
as a new founder or entrepreneur, making sure you have the right support around you is extremely important. And you're not going to be good at everything, and you're not going to know everything. And, having folks with a ton of experience who have been there to help you, I'd say for me was really helpful and would certainly
Yeah,
recommend.
amazing. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out Caraway Home at carawayhome.com.